Welcome back to Stadia Source, your number one source for Stadia news, the good news and the bad news, and reviews. Here on this Roundtable Extra edition of the Roundtable podcast, we've got a panel of the Dream Team today. We've got Dan.
Hello.
We got Blue Bob's the Gaming CPA.
Hey, everyone.
We got F Tendo.
Hey now.
And Scarlett.
Hey gamers.
And we appreciate F. We appreciate you giving up your normal stream time for us to chat here today. Yeah. So, did something happen today, you guys? Apparently, there was news of some nature. So, here's what happened to me today. At 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock was the time frame. I knew this was coming. That I had a call that I had to be on, a client call with executive vice presidents and the CEO of my company and the vice president that's in charge of me and all this stuff. And so 3 o'clock, I'm logged into this Zoom talking about developing new reports and strategic planning. And then I just happened to look over at my second monitor and I noticed that Slack has that little red arrow that says that I've been summoned to Slack. And so I click over there and every single channel in our Slack, top to bottom, has just something happening. So clearly this was the hailstorm. The sky fell down today. So for those of you who have absolutely no idea what we're talking about, and I can't imagine there's a single soul of you who's watching today that falls into that bucket, Stadia Games and Entertainment, specifically the first-party game development studios in Montreal and Playa Vista, are closing down. As a part of that, Jade Raymond, who nay of Ubisoft, has left the company or is leaving the company. We're just now seeing through some vaguely referenced Twitter that Stadia R&D, possibly the Star Labs that Aaron Hoffman-John is in charge of, is also laying folks off, or at least her tweet indicated that these people would love to continue to work in this, which makes it sound like they don't have a job anymore. So structural changes coming to Stadia today. So we're going to go around, just get everybody's first initial thoughts on this, and then we'll ping off the conversation. So Dan, we'll start with you and snake around.
So really, to me personally, there's about two main points I'd like to make about all of this that's been announced today. And I'm sure a lot of what you guys will probably say as well will also mimic some of these sentiments, I'm sure. But basically, two of the main points are, number one, Stadia is not shutting down. And for the most part, it should theoretically be business as usual in terms of Stadia itself, albeit you just won't be seeing the first-party games from Stadia because they've shut the Stadia Games and Entertainment department down. So, you're still going to see all of the games that would have been coming, all these 400 games that are touted for 2021. But I think the main problem here is probably people's perception of this news and the trust in Stadia, which was very, very wafer thin as it was for some people. And the fact that they've basically come out when they announced Stadia back in 2018 or 19, saying that obviously they've invested in first-party studios, and if only a year later they've obviously cancelled it, and it's the whole Google graveyard coming to bite us back in the ass. I think they've not really even given it much of a chance, and now they're already cancelling it, which is what people think that they're going to do with Stadia anyway. But I genuinely think that I can hear myself. It's really off-putting.
I'm not sure. Keep talking, Dan. I'm going to start muting people at random.
It's just one of those things. I genuinely think that if they'd have not come out when they launched Stadia, or when they announced Stadia in the first place and said that they were making first-party games, I don't think this would have been an issue at all for people. If they'd have just said maybe we're going to wait a few years down the line to see if I can still hear myself. If they'd have said like 3-4 years down the line, maybe then we'll look into it and it wouldn't have been so much of an issue. But I have a few more points to make, but I think I'll let obviously the chat say, well, the panel say what they want to say, and then we'll come back to it. I'm just a bit flabbergasted, basically, by all of this. You can probably hear it in my voice.
Blue Bobs, give us your take.
Yeah. So obviously agree 100% with Dan. I mean, for me, I just get more upset because of again, I think the misinterpretation that is going to happen. You know, when Stadia launched, there was such a toxic, negative community that was misinterpreting things from the beginning to basically drive people away from Stadia. And now, I mean, when I typed in Stadia to YouTube, Dreamcast guy came up and he was saying, Stadia's gone, it's official, they're dead. And it's like, this is the Stadia Games and Entertainment portion. Again, which it's not good. You know, we wanted to see that first native cloud game in the next 2 years and have it be the biggest and best thing to bring so many people to the studio or to the platform. But at the same time, I'm more concerned with, again, the misinterpretation of, yes, this venture they were trying to do, which, again, when Microsoft launched, they launched Microsoft Studio in 2000, followed by the Xbox. They didn't do both at the exact same time, which, again, going into something new, there was already a video game console market for Microsoft, whereas Stadia is going to the cloud, and they were indeed the first cloud platform. And I think, again, trying to go against, I just feel like they had a really rough start, and it wasn't necessarily, some of it was because of them, some of their kind of marketing necessarily wasn't on point, but they slowly started to gain traction. I think this is, again, it's just going to kind of set them back because, again, of the misinterpretation that is bound to possibly happen. And of course, I really wanted to see that first native cloud game. And if they're still pulling their 400 games, though, in this year as planned, then I really don't see necessarily any reason to be too upset because, guys, in 2 years, they could just jumpstart it again. They're like, hey, we hit a 100,000 player base. Let's revamp this up again. Or we hit 1 million player, you know. But I think with the lack of players, they're probably still struggling to convince the Google execs to put millions and millions of dollars into this first-party studio, when really the biggest desire right now is games. Get as many games as possible. So that was just my 2 cents.
So we'll go in a loop. Scarlett, give us your.
Yeah, so I think I was probably one of the few people who didn't freak out over this. And maybe this is just because this is something I fully expect from when you run a business, is if something is not working in the beginning, you drop it until you can come back to it later. I've had to do this multiple times. And yes, I am just a small business. It is just me. But the principles hold true for no matter how big the business is. If it's not working to begin with, but you know it will work eventually, you drop it and you come back to it later. You focus on what the people actually want, and then you come back to what you actually want, because at that point, people are going to have the trust in you. They're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. They're going to give you the time that you need. A lot of people are comparing this to Nintendo. Nintendo comes out with all of their first-party stuff, and everybody loves it. Well, that's also Nintendo. They've been around for how many years now? They have our love and a piece of our heart when we are born. So, like, you can't expect Stadia to do the same thing. I think this is actually brilliant, and I understand that, yes, I'm not trying to say that there couldn't be ramifications, but I honestly think that too many people are focusing on the negatives of this and not the positives of this in terms of how this will actually help Stadia immensely. So those are my initial thoughts.
And Felix, broadcasting live from Megatron X's house.
Yes, very, very beautiful place, Meg. Thank you very much for letting me hang out here. But you know what? I'm gonna sound like a parrot, basically, and repeat what you guys said. I didn't see it as a big deal. My buddy, he went ahead and he once Wario64 posted it, he went ahead and tagged me in it. And then I saw the initial headline and I said, oh, this is not good. But then I actually clicked the link and I read it. And then what I read was basically what you guys are saying. They're taking the resources. You know, it kind of sucks because if you look at, does Typhoon Studios get affected by this? Does anybody know?
We don't know yet. Alex Hutchinson tweeted today about the fact that his Employee of the Month edition came out today, but he didn't
Gotcha.
say anything else.
So yeah, it's gonna stink on things like that. And also with Outcasters, like what happens with that studio. But at the end, what I was telling my buddy is, if you look at Netflix, when Netflix first came out, and I know it's kind of like a sin where you shouldn't compare Stadia to Netflix, but I'm gonna go ahead and do it. When Netflix first came out, they were really focusing on trying to get, you know, these licensed content and all this content from all these studios, established places. And then once they got that clientele, then they were like, all right, let's start buying our own IP and doing our own things and getting the customers in that way. So when I spoke to my buddy about it, I'm like, you know, this is actually kind of a good thing. We just got a Madden port that's, even if you don't play football, it's absolutely fantastic. I'm excited for FIFA to come out. Eventually, we're gonna have to get a Call of Duty. I mean, we might not, but if we do, like, EA has kind of showed us as far as what they can port. When they port it properly, it's going to look beautiful. So I think, yes, they should go ahead and invest more on getting third party. Once they get that all set, once they get the clientele, then go ahead and start pumping that first party out again if they have those studios. And it's also a good thing for Outcasters, because I kind of want to see Outcasters on an Xbox, on a PlayStation, with crossplay. So I think it's a good thing right now. I don't see the negatives in it.
So, and I'll add my 2 cents in here, and then we'll broadcast it up a little bit. I tweeted this out shortly after. I tweeted a lot of things today, but I tweeted this out just a little while ago, basically saying the decisions that were made today do not preclude any of the following: that Stadia doesn't buy a studio at some point, another studio, because they already bought Typhoon, and there were rumors flying around just a short while ago that they were looking at buying more. That Stadia does not. I should just look at my own tweet. Why would I do that though? That Stadia does not pay other developers for platform exclusivity to bring games to their platform. That Stadia does that. Other publishers do not just keep cranking out games for Stadia, and that the Stadia dev team doesn't continue to sharpen and refine the tools on the platform for other developers to use. So I said this 2 streams already. We've been streaming about this all day, you guys. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. And I tweeted this: Stadia Games and Entertainment closed down today. Stadia did not shut down today. And in fact, Blue Bob's kind of mentioned this himself. Nothing for you or me changed today. Nothing. The games from Stadia Games and Entertainment that we've never played, we'll still have never played them. We don't know what they looked like. It might have just been the weird little worm game that we've seen on people's screenshots. But there may not have ever even been a game to play. We don't know. But at a certain point, and Blue Bob's all this is up your alley as well. At a certain point, there is a meeting. And there are people sitting around, in this case, a virtual desktop, and they are looking at a spreadsheet. And that spreadsheet has numbers on it that are either red or black. And at a certain point, somebody sits there, somebody around that desk with an F in their title, Chief Financial Officer, Executive Vice President of Finance, something in there, says, is it going to cost us $100 million to make our own game? Or is it going to cost us $10 million to pay Capcom to bring their game? Let's do that 10 times. And teams, companies as large as Alphabet, I hate to say this because, big company bad. They didn't get as big as they are making bad business decisions. They might make business decisions we don't agree with as consumers, but they didn't get to be $1 trillion company making poor bets, putting bad money after good. They just didn't. So we have to assume that there's a plan for this, and that the plan might have been, we're going to make our first party games. They're going to be awesome. They're going to do crazy things in the cloud. And somebody said, guys, it's not working. It's just not working. We're trying this. It's just not working. Let's redirect. Let's take that money and spend it somewhere else. And they, as a company, as a private organization, as an entity that is not beholden to anybody but their shareholders, have to make decisions that they will believe will keep the prop. One last thing on this, and we'll open it up. What if you? I want everybody who's watching this right now, we got 40 people in the chat. I want you to be honest with yourself. Would you rather Stadia spend the money to keep their internal studio that they do not believe is going to succeed afloat and come out with a game that sells 6,000 copies and Stadia itself has to close because it's just a bad investment? Or would you rather them put that money toward getting more developers on the platform, getting more games on the platform, buying more licenses, getting more exclusives, paying people like Uppercut and Splash Damage to come out with killer games like Outcasters and put them on Stadia? It hurts that we're not going to see the first-party Stadia game that we have all imagined in our head will be this insane, crazy virtual reality Ready Player One AI thing that we're just never going to see. But if this gives Stadia 5 more years, why is that not the right choice?
Yep.
So let's open it up. Obviously, it's tough. We all wanted to see what Stadia was going to do here. We all wanted to see what was coming down the pipeline from Jade Raymond and Aaron Hoffman-John, and we're not going to get to see it now, and that sucks. So there's a lot of fear and anxiety running rampant in the Stadia community today.
Yep.
Okay.
Well,
And everybody's just like, okay.
No, I
I
just,
thought-
I just wanted to make sure.
I thought Andrew had something to say, so.
Andrew, then Scarlett, then Dan.
Okay.
Was this
All right. Yeah, well, I was just going to go off what you were saying about the big executive meeting. Like, I'm a financial analyst in a subsidiary of a company that's with Boeing, and Boeing builds airplanes, and we build drones. And we are a wholly owned subsidiary, but we're responsible to Boeing, and they will give us, maybe some challenges, and they will give us some, I guess, financial challenges, and we're only allowed to spend so much, and we receive so much for budgeting purposes, which is what I do. So that could exactly be something. I mean, COVID hit, which in my opinion, I think probably YouTube probably saw more ad revenue personally, because obviously more people are at home, but there probably came down to Stadia where, hey, you guys have this much budget, what are you going to spend it on? And they had to, like Avery said, they had to make the choice of, do we dump 100 million into Stadia Games and Entertainment, or do we take the advice from our consumers that say bring more games to the platform, So that's really what I want to talk about. Is they probably had some sort of challenge, or they probably had some sort of dollar amount, and they had to go off of that. And so it's a tough decision. But again, I'm sure if the player base starts to grow and those numbers start to hit black, then they will probably see more funding released to them, and they can definitely resume it at that point where their game reaches 100,000 or 1 million people instead of 10,000 and cost them $100 million. So
and Scarlett, I want you to jump in here, but I want you guys to think about this number: $313 million. That is what they have estimated that it costs to produce Cyberpunk 2077, a video game that has been in development for 8 years, that released in a horribly buggy state and tanked CD Projekt Red stock price from a 26-year-old video game company that produced one of the top-selling video game series of all time, The Witcher. If they couldn't get it right for $313 million, what was Stadia gonna do? Scarlett, jump in here.
Yeah. So I understand. I really do understand a lot of the concerns that people have about this. So I don't want people to think that I'm just like, tossing all your concerns out the window. But I feel like people have skipped over. There's a reason they started with the first 2 paragraphs that they started with in this article that Phil Harrison supposedly put up. Because they're saying we're not doing this on a whim. We're doing this because we believe this is the correct path to make this, in their words, a long-term sustainable business that helps grow the industry. We're not just we're not just coming out and saying we're shutting down our first-party studio because we feel like it, because we're Google and this is what we do. No, they're saying this will help. This will make it better. And I think I don't know. I think the struggle that I'm having here is actually with the community right now, and not so much with Stadia, because maybe this is just a business mind coming into this. That like this makes perfect sense. Like, if they're going to go to people to buy games off of them to then, you know, sell them and make money off of that I don't know. I'm sorry. I am a crafter. I use wood. I use lasers. I use saws. I use all sorts of different things. I did not go out and build those because, one, I don't know how. If I did, that'd be amazing. And two, somebody else knows how to do it better. So why would I go out and chop down a tree and figure out how to cut it into perfectly flat planes and buy a planer and buy a sander and get more drum sanders and all of that? Why would I do that if I can just get it already made and then make my thing even better? It makes so much sense for sustainability, for the technology, because the technology here is what we're all really fans of. We're not fans of the games that Stadia might make. We're fans of the Stadia platform and what it offers. No downloads, no wait times, play it anywhere. The technology is only going to get better. And that's what they're trying to say. And I just need to stress that the technology is what we're here for. And if the technology gets better, the games that are getting offered get better. And then somewhere down the road, we will be able to then have maybe something along the lines of Stadia Games and Entertainment come back. And it's going to be fantastic. And we're all going to be like, yay, see, you guys were smart.
Yeah, you know, in our Slack channel, in the past few days, Scarlett's been asking us all to name what our top 10 favorite games are, and none of them are from Stadia Games and Entertainment first party because they haven't made any, because they never made any. So none of us are here for Stadia's first party games. We're all here because Stadia. Google had this weird, crazy idea to produce this weird, crazy platform where anybody can play on your iPhone or your Pixel. I have too many phones in this house. You know, you can play on these devices from the bedroom, the bathroom, or anywhere in between, or the boat on the water, as long as you have a 5G signal. And it's worked. And that's what we're all here for. Is this crazy technology platform that makes it possible for us to all play games in ways we never had before. None of us are here for that game that they made because they never made it. So
facts.
It's tricky. I think part of the other part of this, and we're all, look, I've been on 2 different streams today, and you can almost follow the 5 stages of grief through these things, because the first one was just anger and denial, and then by the time we got to the second one is on today, it was like bargaining and depression, and now we're finally onto acceptance here on Stadia Source. Because we've all had a couple hours, we've all had 4 hours to process this, and I don't want anybody in the audience. Guys, you know we love you. We love our audience. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have it. And I don't want anybody in the audience who is genuinely heartbroken by this news or is afraid for the future of Stadia, a platform you've invested time and money in, to think that we're discounting your feelings or that we're rejecting them as untrue or anything like that. Feelings are feelings. They're valid regardless of the foundation of them. But I think what we're saying universally, everybody but maybe Dan, we love you, Dan. It's too late for him. He's been processing, and then that's past midnight over there. I think what we're trying to say is we remain hopeful in the platform. We remain passionate about Stadia. It'd be a heck of a lot of work to rename StadiaSource.com into something else at this point, right? So we got brand new graphics rolling out. Scarlett's not going to want to redo all those. And some of this, the hat, you don't want to have to get a new hat, man. We're here because we love Stadia. We wouldn't be on a channel called Stadia Source if we weren't. We're not going anywhere. One of our good friends, Dan, I won't say him by name, but Dan and I get this Twitter message about an hour ago going, "Are you guys okay? Is Stadia Source going to be okay?" No, we're fine.
He did.
We did, and God bless him. He's a great guy, and if he drops in the chat and wants to call himself out, he's welcome to do that. But he said, "How are you two holding up?" I'm like, "We're fine." Actually, I replied, "We're shutting it all down and burning the server in a fire." But I was joking because it's just not. It's gonna be okay, you guys. It really is. Dan, do you believe in your heart that it's going to be okay? I know you were the only one of the five of us. You were the only one that started out going, "I'm concerned," and then we're all just like, "Meh."
Whatever. Well, I mean,
we convinced you at least.
If you think about it, I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. I mean, I have built a brand around Stadia, and when
Dan's got skin in the game.
I know when something comes out that's like threatening to jeopardize that, I'm going to be a little bit concerned. But I'll be honest with you, and there's a couple of things that have kind of, a few things that have changed my mind over the course of the past few hours. Is number one, obviously listening to, because I was out shopping when most of this dropped, by the way. But I had my Google Buds in, so I was listening to Cloudy with a Chance of Games. I was listening to Adam on there. Avery, you popped on for a bit as well. Hearing all your guys' opinions have obviously helped with that as well. I was also involved probably for about half an hour to 40 minutes or so in the official Stadia Discord. There was a voice chat going on there because obviously with the Discord was going absolutely mental. So they've put obviously like a timer on when people can actually type. So to get around that, we obviously had the voice chat, and there was a fella in there. I believe he's part of the Stadia Reddit as well, so he knows what he's talking about. And he said quite a lot of things that have put my mind at rest. And I think someone mentioned it here, like if you take a look at Cyberpunk, for example, and the success of Cyberpunk.
Something they even mentioned at the beginning of their article.
Yeah, they were sure to put that in their article. Look at what Cyberpunk did for Stadia, and it wasn't a first-party game. And if they could have that with not every single game, but like if they could have that with some of the bigger games that would eventually be coming out on Stadia, that's going to help them no end. But I think, like, if you ask me personally, anybody that knows me knows that I love Sonic the Hedgehog, and if you come to me and say, would you have rather Outcasters came out on Stadia or Sonic Mania? Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Outcasters. It's a beautiful game. But, you know what I mean? I've got to get me that Sonic. And the way that I see this is that the money that they would invest, I think, again, I'm probably just rewording what other people have said in this chat and many others, but I would rather them invest that money that they would have put into making the next game, which might I add could be hit or miss as well. Like we're not definitely sure that the next Stadia Games and Entertainment game would be a massive hit. I would rather them put that money into something that they know is going to be maybe not Sonic Mania, but something that they're a little bit more sure on, like an established brand such as Call of Duty's, your Resident Evil's, your Fortnite's. Because 99% of the people that I've spoke to about Stadia have said the same questions to me, and that is, does it have Call of Duty? No. Does it have Fortnite? No. Does it have FIFA? No. Does it have Madden? It does now, but for the most part it hasn't. And all of these things just deflate that person when I tell them that it's not on the platform. So in my opinion, and I know that there's been both sides of the fence with this argument as well, whether, you know what I mean, these games should be coming to Stadia, whether Stadia can survive without them or not, that's an entirely different conversation to be had. But I do think that we need at least some, if not all, of those big games. Because how many times do you see when a AAA game gets announced at the Game Awards or something, or at E3, and there's no Stadia logo? Like it's almost like a punch in the gut.
Well, that's why, like, anytime I see a trailer now, I'm like, oh, Stadia. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, logo gate. It's just to kick in the So what I want to see is, obviously, I want to see them taking that money and investing it into things to make Stadia great. Now, you might say if Stadia doesn't have its own first-party platforms, then what's drawing me to Stadia as opposed to on Xbox or PlayStation or any other platform? And again, this gentleman in the Stadia Discord was like, well, that's where all of your cloud features come in. So you know what I mean, your crowd play and your crowd choice and your state shares, and as Avery said, it's the platform itself that we love. And obviously the games, of course we love the games too, but we fell in love with the platform more so than the games. So
and it's the engine. Sorry, and F, I want you to get in here as well. But it's Stadia has developed. It's the platform that they developed underneath all this stuff. It's the fact that a small studio. We're good friends with Furion Games, the group behind Death Carnival, and they've spoken on our podcast and in conversations that we've had that, like, you know, the just to be able to deploy to the cloud and test in the cloud and deal with it there, and you've got people working from home in different environments. That's one of the things that sets Stadia apart. And then the fact that you just need to add a couple of APIs and you can drop in Stream Connect and State Share and stream crowd play and crowd choice and all these other things. So there's nothing stopping. It's like Unreal Engine. All these things that we've seen Unreal Engine do with the textures and the shading and the polygons and 7 bazillion triangles and all that kind of stuff that they're doing, ray tracing, whatever else, is it's all triangles all the way down. It's to create a platform for the game development to make it easier for people to develop. Unity is the same way. Stadia is developing a platform to make it easier to deliver your games to people and add cool toys to them. And that's not going away. There's absolutely nothing saying that Bethesda is not going to roll out Elder Scrolls 6 on Stadia. There's no reason to think they won't. I said this on Twitter too today. Until the first game gets canceled that we have heard about from another studio, there's no reason to think that the studios have lost faith in Stadia. They might even, I mean, honestly, they just lost a competitor. They might be perfectly fine with the fact that Google is not, it's the Samsung versus the Pixel. They might just be happy that they get to create their own games and sell them on the platform and not have to compete.
Yep. And you know, I'm going to go ahead and I know Adam was having some discussions on Twitter concerning about games coming out day and date with the consoles. And I think actually that's more important to have at this point than these first-party studios. I think we need to get a little more parity with these these day-and-date releases on big titles. Like, yes, we just got Madden 21, but I want to see Madden 22 in August. I don't want to wait till January 2022 to get the new Madden. As same with FIFA. Like, I'm okay if FIFA drops right now and then drops the 22 version in July. That's what I want to see. Again, I love Outcasters as well, just like everyone else. Maybe not so much Scarlet, but I like that game, but I'm okay losing that if that means I'm going to get the next Call of Duty day and date, because like Dan said, people are expecting these games, and they're expecting those more than whatever Stadia or Google Stadia Games has to offer at this point in time. Right before we went live, RGG Studios and Sega announced that Judgment is getting a next gen remaster on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and Stadia. Like, that's pretty big news, and that's huge. And I think in the future, that's what I would like to see before I see Outcasters 2 or whatever else. Again, we don't even know what Stadia had in store for us. So I'm okay waiting for those games if that means I'm going to get more of what we can get on the other consoles today.
Yeah, it's almost, to see the reaction that the community had on Twitter today was, try to be very careful.
Be careful.
I got myself from saying it all together. There's a lot of strong emotions when moments like this happen, but if you look back
at the history of Stadia, this is not our first rodeo with it's like she said earlier, Stadia is dead, it's dying, it's gone, it's in the graveyard. It wasn't dead it wasn't dead a year ago when we didn't hear any news from Stadia for almost a month. It wasn't dead it wasn't dead 10 months ago when it was in a perpetual beta and they just were never releasing it. It wasn't dead at any point in this year's history when they finally, when they had two different connects that just were 15 minutes and were kind of lame. It wasn't dead after the good stuff event. Reports of Stadia's demise have always been highly exaggerated. And everyone in this community is so passionate about it, and we want it to succeed. We want it to grow. We want it to get bigger. We want it to get better. I want to keep streaming Stadia for 10 more years.
Indeed.
But is it going to be the end of the world if we don't? Of the 5 people sitting here and of practically everybody else in this community and everybody else who really, really loves Stadia, there are the people who are employed by Stadia, and then there's like Dan, who has some skin in this game. There's Nerd Nest, which has a pretty strong following and probably gets some good money off those super chats and the subscriptions. There's Sunny and maybe CGX, and that's about it. If Stadia closed down tomorrow, it's gonna suck, but we're all gonna go on with our lives. It's gonna suck, but we're all gonna go on with our lives. And Stadia has to have the right to make those choices. Alphabet has to have the right to make those choices. I said at the very end of that was what I was. There was where I was going with this. I said at the very end of being on with Chase, thank you. Ooh. I've circled back through, and now I'm back to anger because I can't get my brain to work. I said at the very end, there was a statement that I saw a lot of people making in the chat with Eddie when he went live. A lot of people making in the chat with Cloudy, and then a lot of tweets today. And they said that Stadia broke our trust. That Stadia betrayed us and broke our trust. And my immediate reaction to that is, Stadia didn't sleep with your best friend and get pregnant. Like Stadia didn't take credit for that big project at work and get promoted to executive vice president. Like they just stopped producing their own video game. That's all they did. A video game we haven't even seen, and we never will at this point. Maybe in a year, Jade Raymond will post a screenshot going, "Look at this bird I made." Like, that's
I hope so.
That would be great. But they didn't betray our trust. Like, they just stopped doing a thing, and they have to have the right to do that.
So yeah, I've been seeing it in our chat too. And I don't want people to think that, like, again, I want to reiterate, we're not beating down your feelings. You are absolutely totally valid to have these feelings. I'm hoping that what we say can help you feel better about this, though, because even though me, like, I'm not struggling with this like at all. I know that there's people who are, and so I want us to meet somewhere in the middle here. Stadia has promised is actually a rather strong word. Stadia has told us we're in for the long haul from the beginning.
Yep.
In their announcement today, they have once again used those same words. We are in for the long haul. We are here to stay. I don't think that getting rid of one small portion of this breaks that trust. If anything, I feel like it should make people trust them more because they're trying to actually make this in for the long haul. They're trying to get rid of whatever's not working and make themselves better. If your friend came up to you and said, I'm going to quit smoking, but we're smoking buddies. No, I want to live. So then, he quit smoking, but you're still friends. He didn't break your trust because you guys don't smoke together anymore. You're still friends. I mean, maybe that's not the right analogy, but it works in my head. They're not breaking any trust here. They're trying to help you trust them even more.
It's that whole being brutally honest with yourself as well as everybody else, and the fact that they've taken that you know what I mean? I think Avery said at the beginning of the stream, like when they were sat in that office, like discussing what the future of SG&E is, I don't think anybody wanted to make that announcement to make that decision to close it down.
Definitely not.
You've got to obviously be honest with yourself and everybody else as well. And Stadia, they're not idiots. They knew that this would hurt them in some way. They knew that it would damage trust, and they knew that, like as I said at the beginning as well, that their trust has been wafer thin at best anyway with some people. But one of the things I've noticed on Twitter at the moment as well is that there's two types of people that talk negatively about Stadia now because of this announcement. You've got the two people that genuinely have concerns, and they're coming from a place of love, even if they are being negative. And you've just got the douches that have just done nothing but bash Stadia from day one. And this is just opened up the floodgates.
Right after this break.
Yeah, all this has done is just opened up the floodgates for them to bash Stadia even more and let them have a field day with it. So what you've got to do is you've got to try and obviously you've got to look at both sides, obviously, because I'm not saying that anybody that's bashing Stadia because they just plain don't like it and think it's fun, I'm not saying that they won't have valid, you know what I mean, criticisms and concerns as well. But you've got to look at some of the negatives that are being said from a place of love and see if you can find any positives in there. And that's what I've been trying to do today is not just surround myself with opinions that, well, match my own or make it so that this is all going to be absolutely fine and fairies and pixies and stuff like that, but just to try and base myself on reality when it comes to some of the announcements that we've had today. Yes, they suck, but as Avery said, Stadia, at least for now, will live on. So
yeah, I mean, let's look at what we know about yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Yesterday, for the past year and a half, Stadia has increasingly added more and more and more games and features to the platform. Today, if you go log into stadia.google.com and click play on any of those games that you have in your library, they will boot up and you can start playing them. Tomorrow, we have games like Judgment and FIFA and Outriders and all of these other games coming to the platform.
Yep.
The only and the other thing we know about tomorrow is we don't have a known Stadia Games and Entertainment game coming to the platform. That's all we know. But there's nothing at all stopping Google from changing course again. And, you know, Google, we've seen this over and over and over again with Google. When they realize that they can't do it in-house, they buy. They either spend money or they buy. Google has, I said this on the last show, and I'll say it again, Android Wear is terrible. It's just bad. I'm wearing an Apple Watch on my wrist right now, and the Apple Watch is the only reason I switched to iPhone. That's it. It's because I was tired of not having a good smartwatch, and I wanted a good smartwatch, so that's why I switched to Apple. Google just bought Fitbit because they know that Android Wear sucks and they're going to have to do better in-house. Back when the Nexus line was kicking around and not doing so hot and was really poorly reviewed, they bought Motorola because they wanted to leverage the Motorola technology and buy all those patents, and now the Pixel phones are incredible. Google Docs didn't start out as a Google product. It was Rightly, and they bought it. It happens over and over and over again that they buy a product, they integrate it. Android was not created by Google. Android was an open source platform that somebody else built and Google bought. So there's no reason to think that I made the prediction on last Thursday's podcast that Google is going to buy some company. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be an Ubisoft or something. There's no reason. Or WB Games. We knew they were for sale, right? Heck, they might buy Splash Damage. Who knows? They have a good working relationship with them. So there's no reason to think they won't do that. Sorry, I just smashed my hand. I'm so passionate about this. I'm smashing my hand on my desk.
Oh, man. Well, you know, Google was actually Bing until Google bought. No, I'm just kidding. Fake news there. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great point. How funny would it be if Google bought Tencent, who has just been like acquiring all sorts of companies. That would be awesome. But no, I guess, yeah, the reason why I really want to hop in this podcast is just because, again, for those individuals, like, you know, I like to talk numbers. I love to talk finance. And I want to, like, why I think Stadia itself is not going away anytime soon. I don't think Stadia has a whole lot of costs with just Stadia, because it's not like they built their own gaming servers. Yeah, they might be putting in upgrades frequently, but Google's going to be using that to expedite their search engine. YouTube's going to use that to process videos faster. So it's not like they had to go build and buy anything separate. Their biggest cost is going to be payroll and advertising, which we know they didn't do much with advertising because, you know, there wasn't a whole lot of marketing. And so the biggest expense was indeed Stadia's Game and Entertainment, which would be my personal opinion. And so that's where I don't think Stadia, we have to worry at all about them going away, because, again, they're just utilizing hardware that's already there by Google to bring us these games via the cloud. So that was, again, that's why I want to hop on this, to just try to reassure people that we're still hesitant about potential Stadia downfall because of the SG&E going away. So, you know.
So I want to take a much more somber approach to the next point I'm about to make, and that is Google's handling of the actual release, the press release today. And I genuinely think that the blog post, the reason why it's caused so many ripples is because it was just a blog post. It was just some text, which we all know from reading text, you can interpret that text in different ways. Like, we could all read exactly the same excerpt and every single one of us will take something different away from that. There's been people saying that they're basically going to dissolve Stadia but use the technology to enhance other cloud gaming platforms like Xcloud, or merge with another cloud gaming platform, or bring it to a platform that doesn't currently already have it. But one of the things I think they would have benefited from would be to actually have maybe just some sort of face to the news, maybe a video from Phil or someone, just to kind of say, look, we are dedicated to this. I'm not saying necessarily apology, but just something to kind of say, we are aware of your concerns. Because they are, and they would have been aware of these concerns way before we even knew about it today. They would have discussed this at length, obviously, at Google themselves. But just to kind of have someone come on screen and just calm people's nerves. And I know that, like, Grace is in the Discord doing... She's
damage control right now.
She's doing some damage control. She's not necessarily answering questions, but she's obviously trying to keep everybody from killing each other, basically, in the Discord. And I'm sure the same's going on Reddit. There's too many posts for me to keep up in all of these different platforms. That the last, like, 4 hours have just been an absolute, like, influx of information from different sources coming into my brain. And but yeah, I don't know if you guys match my sentiment on that, that they could have handled it better than just a press release via text. And I genuinely think tomorrow is going to be just a blog post to come out that's to say that, hey, your pro games are here, as if you didn't already know. Because they come out on the 1st of every month, and they're probably not going to breathe another word of this, at least not anytime soon anyway. And also, they could have maybe done something like revealed, I think Adam said this somewhere, Original Penguin said that they could have revealed some of this said roadmap of 400 games that we've got supposedly coming. Maybe not give release dates or anything too solid, but just to say, you know what I mean, it's not going to hurt Stadia too much if they just reveal some of those games that we've got coming, especially if they're games that we know everybody's waiting for, like, for example, your Call of Duties and your Fortnite and stuff. Like, if Call of Duty was coming to Stadia, why keep that a secret? Do you know what I mean? That's something that you want to get out there as soon as possible, because then the next generation of people that we're gonna, that's not generation, but the next iteration of people that are going to purchase the next Call of Duty might then have a decision to make. Do I buy it on Stadia or do I buy it elsewhere? And if it's not been announced for Stadia, then of course the answer is going to be I'm going to buy it on Xbox or PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
But then also you've now got the added addition of like, do I buy it in Stadia? Because I think there's someone in the chat at the moment, Inane Adam, saying he doesn't feel confident in buying games on Stadia after they've made this announcement because, you know what I mean? They say they're in it for the long run, but what are words if they're not followed by actions and proof? And if they've said that they're going to support Stadia Games and Entertainment for, I don't know, 5 years into the future, and then they've closed it down after a year, then that doesn't bode well for, you know what I mean, Stadia as a whole. So I'm a Libra, and I don't know if you know star signs, but the Libras are scales, and I'm very, I'll be honest with you, I don't actually believe in star signs, but that's just my personal opinions. But honestly, the Libra is obviously scales, and that's how I try to approach everything in my life. Is everything has to be balanced, so you have to look at it from both sides, and like the world is very black and white through my eyes, and that's why I'm obviously saying I've said the things that I've said to back Stadia up. I'm a massive Stadia shill. I'm not going to, you know what I mean, deny that. But then I also have to look at the bad things as well and match some of the sentiments of the people that I see in chat, which have basically lost faith in the platform. So I'm still very much 50-50, but I'm getting closer to being on a more positive note on this, but I still have to think about the bad as well.
Yeah, and just a quick point on to your the delivery method. Yeah, it would have been nicer for them to do something else, but that's not Google's way. The CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, posted a blog post to tell people what steps Google is taking to promote the vaccine rollout against a global pandemic. Phil Harrison was not going to do a "Hey, you guys" video. It's just not Google's way. Google responds to like the entire continent of Australia is creating laws to harm them, and they just do a blog post about it. So that's just not their way. But Scarlett, let me get your last thoughts on this, and then I'll take us home.
Yeah,
Meg has finally noticed.
Meg, I'll leave
screaming
shortly.
from her.
We're almost done, Meg, and I'll be out of your room. I'm sorry.
I just want to say that there's probably a good reason that we're dealing with this right now. This is the beginning of the year. We're gonna kind of lump it all in the beginning, get it over with, and then Stadia is gonna come out and hopefully do exactly what Dan wants. They're gonna back up their words with their actions. We're gonna get more YouTube Stadia integrations. We're gonna get more features inside of the Stadia app. We're gonna get, cool stuff, lots of cool stuff, and maybe not. Okay, F10, you need to mute yourself.
Sorry,
but I just have a really good feeling about this. I think this is going to be smart. I think this is going to be, I suppose as Dan might say, this is going to be brilliant. That feels like an English thing to say. I really, really, truly feel that this is going to be good. And we're going to see so much more improvement over this year because they're going to focus on making this technology even better. And it's going to be fantastic.
I don't know that I could say it any better than that. So I'm going to let Scarlett be the last word on this. And regardless, I say the last word, then I start talking. Regardless, Stadia Source is your number one source for Stadia news and reviews. We're not going anywhere. We will be here until the day the Stadia blades shut down, or Dan gets tired of this and goes home. But until that time, we're here. We're your number one source for Stadia news and reviews.
We'll still be here after that because we'll have to perform a funeral. So
until you see the very last one here, and big shout out to Chase for the super chat. we're gonna be here, you guys. We are the Stadia Source team, from our news team to our reviews team to the stream team, dream team. We're here to bring you Stadia content, and we're gonna keep doing that until they shut her down. And then when that happens, by God, we might already have at Lunasource registered. I don't know. Scarlett's crazy. So there will be other things to go, and I don't. Nobody tweet us. It's not. Just calm down. So we're going to be here. You're going to find us live all week long with the Stream Team Dream Team. You're going to have us on Thursday for our 50th episode of the Roundtable. 50 episodes on Thursday. I can't really count this one. It's an extra, so it doesn't count. So we got plenty of time to go. We got plenty of Stadia ahead of us. And we appreciate each and every one of you that tuned in tonight to hear us ramble about this. I'm sure everybody has got Stadia Games and Entertainment fatigue today. Guess what? The hot topic on Thursday is going to be on the roundtable, you guys. Just kidding. It's going to be this pro draft. I'm not doing this again. So, Anthony, so sorry. You don't get to talk about this one. No, I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point on Thursday. But keep tuning in. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Do all the YouTube-y things. We're going to be here. We appreciate all of you that tuned in. 60 plus folks tuning in tonight to hear us talk about Stadia. It's not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. We will continue to be Stadia Source, your number one source for Stadia news and reviews. For the Stadia Source panel tonight, we want to thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your night, everybody.
Goodbye.
I clicked the thing.
Oh, come on.
How anticlimactic. It muted Dan and Blue Bobs, left the rest of us fine, and then didn't play the dang video. So how anticlimactic was that, everybody? Scarlett, should I switch over and play a different outro video and see if it'll work today?
Yes.
I'm gonna do this. We're gonna find out. Oh, something just changed. I wonder what it was. Let's see if this works. We'll find out. Nope.
What is going on, StreamYard?
It's muted. Dan, guys, live podcast, live things. Let's try this one. Nope, not a darn thing. All right. Felix, take us out with the Stadia Source logo music.